let's, 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 come on. I want you to feel this energy right now. Let's go. Come on. I know we are in the middle of a pretty negative stretch as an LSU football fan, okay? Because Marcus Freeman was getting ready to make history as the first ever black coordinator at LSU. And that would have been a big deal to people like me, okay? And he was not only just because of his skin color qualified for this job, he was the best person for the job, and he decides to shun us for Notre Dame? What is that? And so I start with that, saying that that would have been something very important to me. But here's the funny thing about it. Because right now, Ed Orgeron's going through his searches, and there is some pressure on LSU to hire an African-American defensive coordinator, or just a coordinator in general. But this is what I don't want. I don't want a hire to be morally licensed. I don't want a hire to be made simply because of the color of their skin. That drives me up a wall. Because while Marcus Freeman was my number one defensive coordinator candidate, the one guy I did not want was Derek Mason. And Auburn ended up hiring him. And he was very heavily rumored to be along with LSU. So, I find that to be very fascinating because now I don't want LSU to feel the need to hire someone just because of the color of their skin. Hire the best person, because I don't care if you're black, blue, orange, green, or whatever. I want to make sure that the next coordinator is the best person for the job. No, Kane. I've heard this. All right. And, maybe it's just a rumor, but I did hear that there was some pressure to hire someone that is of a certain race. And I hope not. I really hope not. Because for me growing up, I had two dreams: coach or play football at LSU, or become a SportsCenter anchor. That was what I wanted to be growing up. Either one of those two things. There's a piece of me that also wanted to be an actor, right? So because of that, when Stuart Scott was on SportsCenter, it made me feel as if I could be on SportsCenter as well, because I have mannerisms and I'm not white. And it's one of those things, I think about the Eddie Robinson story so much and how hard it was for him to even go see a game at Tiger Stadium. And I just think it would be very symbolic if one of those things could happen if you're an LSU fan. So, I don't mean to make it sound like a strong man. I just hope that the next coordinator is hired based on merit as well. So that's the thing. There are plenty of great coordinators out there. And I'm going to give you a name right now that I actually had at the top of my list last year going into this year, was Randy Shannon. And he's close with Ed Orgeron. He's a great recruiter. He's coached in the SEC. And I really like Randy Shannon. I really do. And he is just a good linebackers coach. So, it's very fascinating. So, it would be kind of cool to see a person of color get the coordinator job at LSU. But ultimately, I want the best person for the job. So welcome into the live stream. That had just been sitting with me all day. But we're going to go through some different defensive coordinator names. We're also going to chat some NFL. Once again, when I bet a certain way, you need to go the opposite. You need to go the exact opposite. Because today, I thought for sure the Buffalo Bills were going to cover and hit the over. The over hit. You saw what happened. I also thought for sure that the Seattle Seahawks would beat John Wofford, whatever his name. But our boy Jamal Adams knocked him out. And, it didn't happen. I would also like to apologize to everyone waiting for the live stream at 1:30 because my stupid self labeled the wrong time for that live stream. So I apologize for that. Now, Tony was like, wait, what happened? I know some of you want to see Booger. Booger is currently on a joyride right now with my girlfriend, and Booger will make her appearance a little bit later. As many of you know, the Super Chat is wide open. The Venmo and Cash apps are wide open. And obviously, a lot of you want to talk about the coordinatorship. Also, I got to shout out Noah because, if you follow Eric Gilbert on Instagram, as many of you know, I hate following athletes on Instagram. Not many of them are funny or really that interesting. Like, for instance, Zach Van Rosenberg is very interesting. Jamal Adams is very interesting. But I do follow Eric Gilbert on Instagram. I do know he's been in the state of Florida, and I do know it is heavily rumored that Eric Gilbert is going to Florida to take over the Kyle Pitts role, which makes a lot of sense. And there is Haley right there. Boog is on her way home. And Kevin, here's the thing. Eric Gilbert thought he wasn't getting the football the way that he should is such a stupid, if that was his reasoning, I'm not saying your comment's stupid. If his reasoning was because he thought he was going to get the football more, well, Eric Gilbert, and I know people that watch every one of my videos gets tired of hearing this stat, but Eric Gilbert set the true freshman record for receptions. So I don't think he realizes how hard it is to get playing time like he did as a true freshman. It wasn't until really the national championship game, Devonta Smith was Devonta Smith. It's his true freshman year. So it's interesting. Boog had to come see your Mimi and Pawpaw. Kane says, but he's not even 21. We're pretty indecisive at that age. Heck, at 31, I'm indecisive. Ask my girlfriend. Gilbert can have Florida. That's a Wani child type of behavior if that's the reason, and let's get the best fit for a defensive coordinator. So, it's one of those things. I really, if I were to give you my list right now, I would put Glenn Schumann pretty high on my list. Randy Shannon, I would like to have on staff. I wouldn't be on fire for him as defensive coordinator as I was last year. Now, you'd ask, well, what's changed from this year to last year? Well, the game of football has. The SEC offenses are so daggum good now. And, I don't think an old school type is ready for all these younger offenses. I just don't. And, for Bo Pelini, I know there's some of you that want Bo Pelini back. Okay? You can't, Larry. It doesn't happen. It simply does not happen. That's a good question, DC. Obviously, Will Muschamp. I would say Will Muschamp because that 2003 defense with Chad Lavallee and I'm turning this game off. Yeah, I never bet the Seahawks again. With Chad Lavallee, Kyle Williams, That was such a great team. And it sucks seeing the Bills win a playoff game without Kyle Williams. But, for you, how many? Okay, let me ask you a question. How good is the new DC at? Yeah, I know, Joseph. Stop living in the past. But he asked me who my favorite defense coordinator was. So I said Will Muschamp because that was my favorite defense with Jack Hunt and all those guys. Corey, Mike, I appreciate the Venmo. And Max, Mike, what would you like to talk about? Max, Kane, I know, but I thought the Seahawks would cover with John Wofford. But here's the thing, okay? As Haley points out, these super chats go to Booger. And if you don't believe me, if you would have seen the bill this week for Booger's appointments, I really do appreciate it. But for real, I thought for sure that Pete Carroll would come out with a better game plan. But did you notice something in this game that was interesting? Jamal Adams knocking out the John Wofford guy, and the Seahawks got better because, they played with their regular quarterback, Jared Goff. But something else was interesting today, and we didn't talk a whole lot about it, but the middle of the Seahawks offensive line is Ethan Posick and Damian Lewis, both LSU players, and they were going up against Michael Brockers today. And then on the opposite side, you had Jamal Adams on defense. And who's the other LSU player? I know Stephon Sullivan's on the team. Who's the other LSU player? God, I'm just slipping right now. But still, there was a lot of LSU Tigers in action today. Adam for Booger, I appreciate you, my dog. And I appreciate you following me on Instagram. And Adam was the first person to, I believe this is Adam. Let me make sure that's right. Adam was the first person to tell me that Chris Curry posted me on his Instagram. And is that you, Adam? Let me make sure I'm getting this right. I don't want to get you mixed up. Yes, that is you, Adam. So Adam, did y'all see this earlier this week? So Chris Curry posted me on his Instagram. And, I've been critical of Chris Curry, but I've also pointed out that he's a high character guy, and that he's a good LSU Tiger, and he was huge in the Oklahoma game in the semifinals. But Adam, did we ever figure out what Chris Curry was actually saying about me? No. Well, here's the thing, Kane. I actually, there have been some times I've been critical of Chris Curry for, missing a gap or whatever. He had 45 carries this year for 145 yards, which obviously isn't good. He didn't have the best blocking, but still. But ask Adam. I should have screen recorded it. It was a weird clip. So Chris Curry posted a clip of me saying he could still make it to the NFL and he should transfer to a non-Power 5 school, which a lot of LSU players do. Okay, they transfer to a non-Power 5 school. And a lot of them have transferred to a non-Power 5 school and still made the NFL. They still have. So I felt, and Adam, you might feel the same way. He posted the word them. And then he posted a clip of a Breakfast Club interview. Now, Kane, I know you're familiar with the Breakfast Club because you have a YouTube account that talks about rap culture. I'm obviously a big fan of the Breakfast Club, Angela Yee, DJ Envy, and Charlamagne. So it was a clip of a rapper I didn't know. And Adam, it was so weird. He made it look like I was saying something negative about him, but I don't know how saying you're transferring, but you still have a shot to make it to the NFL is anything but a positive thing to say. That's all there is to it. And, I'm obviously not the biggest Chris Curry fan, but I was critical of all the running backs this year. Okay, so Kodak Black was the artist. I am not familiar with Kodak Black. I know the name, never listened to any of his music. So, Eric, did you see the clip? I would love for Chris Curry to come on here. I've never had a guest, and if Chris Curry has beef with me, I'd love to talk to him. I'd love to. I really do. I think he's a well-deserving number 18 jersey for what he means off the field. But obviously, for on-the-field production, you would like the number 18 to be a little bit more productive. Shrek, I appreciate you subscribing. And that's the thing. You know, I was supportive. I was supportive of him. Yeah, I don't know, Kevin. And I've always felt weird. Okay. I always feel weird being critical of college athletes. I think professional athletes are fair game if it's a criticism of what they're doing on the field. College athletes, it's never personal. Okay. It's just not personal for me. Like, they're putting their bodies out there. They're not being compensated. So, you know, it's always weird. But then again, it is LSU football, and there is a bigger magnifying glass on you. And there are a lot of people that their livelihoods depend on it. And the funny thing about it, you know, and Joanne wants to talk more about defensive coordinator, and we will in just a second. The funny thing about it, though, is that you're going to get criticized in life. I'm going to get criticized. I made a huge mistake today, okay? I made a huge mistake. I posted the wrong time for the live stream, okay? I posted 1:30. Obviously, the live stream, you know, I said all week it was going to be around 7-ish. I was trying to judge when the best time to post it would be with the NFL playoff games being on. So, you know, I made a huge mistake. There's people waiting on me. I deserve to get criticized for that. If I make an argument like, you know, Kane posted out, that's not sound, I deserve to be criticized for it. I simply do. But then again, you know, to each their own. I can handle criticism. Some people can't. Debbie, welcome. Yeah, and that could be the case, Adam. But the point being is, what school in the SEC is going to take him? What school in the SEC is a place where he's going to start? So go ahead, like and subscribe. Thank you so much, Debbie, for saying that. I want to go to the defensive coordinator search, but first, let's go to Joseph. Cole Taylor will be a good tight end for us. Interesting. I actually do agree with that, Kevin. I think Chris would be a better running back in the Les Miles offense. And I think he was a Les Miles recruit, if I'm not mistaken. I want you to be completely honest with this. Do you think LSU's better off with Cole Taylor than Eric Gilbert? Type K for Cole, type A for Eric. Okay. Who do you think LSU is better off with right now? Cole Taylor or Eric Gilbert? A lot of you think Cole Taylor. I'm telling you, if Cliff had a channel, it would be a Chris Curry channel. And Cliff, as many of you know, is my uncle. He would destroy me for being critical of Chris Curry. And Kevin's like, okay, I need more information on what's going on. So, and Bill makes a good point. It depends. Blocking or throwing the ball. Adam says Cole brings no drama. So, here's my honest answer. Obviously, LSU's better off with Eric Gilbert. Okay? He caught 35 passes. His blocking was hit or miss. It got better. They're better off with Eric Gilbert. But he needs to be invested into the team. And I'm not so sure you want this guy back. And like Kane brought up earlier, maybe, and just maybe, he's just an indecisive teenager, okay? But to counter that, there are plenty of indecisive teenagers who aren't causing the same amount of drama as Eric Gilbert has caused, okay? So let's just go through the timeline. He decides to tell Ed Orgeron that my body's hurting and I don't want to play the final 2 games. In a year where he was getting a lot of playing time, a fair amount of targets. I also do believe, if you go back to the Texas A&M film study that I did, TJ missed him a lot. TJ missed him a lot in that game. And that could be a little frustrating. And his high school teammate was starting at Tennessee. He saw what Kyle Pitts was doing at Florida. And Eric Gilbert had a shadow of a doubt casted over him. So, it was a weird year for him. It was a weird year. What we do know is that the pandemic did get into the tight ends room. Did that play a role with Eric Gilbert, with his body hurting? Also, Eric Gilbert was coveted by every SEC school, and every SEC school would open their doors to him immediately. And as many of you saw with the long true freshman film study that I did, a lot of 5-star freshmen are indecisive over what they want to do with their careers. So for me, I understood why he was frustrated. But the bottom line remains the bottom line. LSU football has won national championships the year after some of their greatest players left the year before. 2007, LSU won a national championship when a number 1 overall quarterback and 2 first-round wide receivers were drafted. And their best free safety was drafted. No one player makes a team. So, we'll see. And, maybe Eric Gilbert will look back and say that he made the wrong decision. As Cliff pointed out, Eric Gilbert and Miles Brennan, that was a pretty hot connection versus Missouri. Then Miles gets hurt. Then TJ Finley comes in. They had zero chemistry. The one time that TJ Finley hit Eric Gilbert, he was wide open over the middle, and he would have scored an 80-yard touchdown. But what did Eric Gilbert do? He dropped it. He would have walked into the end zone. He dropped it. So that's on him. And then he leaves before Max Johnson actually gets to start. And as Joseph points out, if the team was winning, maybe he didn't leave. Or maybe he doesn't leave. So a lot of this is on him. And, if he ends up transferring to Georgia, if he ends up transferring to Alabama, he's going to have to wait his turn. They both have stud tight ends at those universities. So, I do think Cole Taylor's a better option now because obviously he wants to be there. And, it's not about Cole. It's about the team with them. So we'll see. We'll see how Cole Taylor develops. There are some things that I liked. There are some things that I didn't. His blocking in key points of the Florida game was very inconsistent, but obviously his shoe was properly unfastened in the critical moments. And as Joseph points out again, Max Johnson's younger brother, Jake Johnson, looks to be not an Eric Gilbert level player, but looks to be a pretty good player. But the bottom line is LSU keeps moving on. As much as I wanted Marcus Freeman for a lot of reasons on and off the field, a lot of personal reasons, like I said to start, it would have been a big deal for me, the same way Stuart Scott was for me. As much as I loved watching Marcus Freeman's on defense on film, he'll crowd the line of scrimmage and then bring everyone back and blitz a corner off the edge and get a sack. He had Dave Aranda type of schemes. He was that nasty good at calling plays. And it just would have been really cool to see. But no one player, no one coach makes LSU football. There's only a handful of coaches that really move the needle everywhere they go. There's only a handful of coaches. And my buddy Dave Bartu has a thing called coach effect. And it's a metric that he uses to determine which coaches actually move the needle. And by far, his highest rated coach of all time is Bill Snyder at Kansas State for how much he won with the recruited talent that he had received. So the bottom line is that there's not many coaches that really move the needle. And the good thing about Marcus Freeman not coming is more than likely the defensive coordinator you're going to pay next is not going to be paid as much as what Marcus Freeman was going to get from LSU. So it is what it is. And as Cliff points out, Urban and Nick are the only sure things. You know, I would put Dabo in that category as far as all-time great coaches. He's a tier below those two, though. He's in the elite tier, but not those two. And, you know, there's a few other coaches that are obviously really good. Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern is a name that just pops out. So, you know, there's just not many that great. There's just not that many elite coaches that really move the needle. So Amacat brings up the next person I want to talk about today. But before we get into Corey Raymond, there are 156 people in here right now, but there's only 37 thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up button. Obviously, the super chat's wide open. My Venmo and Cash App is the best way to get to me. My phone's right here. I'm checking it. Thank you so much to all the and super chats. I really, really, really do appreciate it. Shout out to Tony, Max, Adam, and thank you guys for asking about Booger. Okay. Now, some of you actually do believe this. Okay. And this is what happens. This happens to a lot of people. Okay. Whenever a coach leaves, it becomes easier to trash that coach. Okay. The bottom line is I will always push back on this. Dave Aranda was spectacular at LSU. Bottom line, no cap. It is wrong to say that he was not special at LSU. He is in the elite tier of most talented assistants to ever coach at LSU. Need not forget that this guy made Lamar Jackson look like Brandon Harris. That in and of itself is a feat of ridiculous nature in a meaningless bowl game in Orlando, Florida. And I was at that game. It was one of the funnest LSU games I've ever been to. It was a rowdy atmosphere, lots of BWW chicken wings around. It was raucous, okay? Dave Aranda was good. Dave Aranda was really good. Stop putting down on Dave Aranda. Just because Ed Orgeron doesn't like him, it's okay. I'm a fan of Coach Orgeron. You're a fan of Coach Orgeron. But the way he handled that departure, the bottom line, everything that Ed Orgeron did post Dave Aranda was awful. The way he handled it, he would do a total do-over. And I understand Dave Aranda left to be the head coach somewhere else. And I understand that. And that obviously ticked Ed Orgeron off. But to hire a coach and then say the defense before actually ever playing a game was way better then any Dave Aranda defense is not only a slap in the face of Dave Aranda, it's also a slap in the face of the players who played under him. You know, that's slapping Grant Delpit in the face, Christian Fulton in the face. Okay? It was a stupid comment. And even Ed Orgeron, if he was standing right here, he would say the same thing. It was stupid. That's a BBWs. I mean, it was a Buffalo Wild Wings bowl. What did I say? And there's something, and BBWs means a lot of different things, but I meant to say BWW. So overtime, I put the wrong time on the initial live stream because I'm a freaking idiot. So overtime, that's on me. Let's see. Thank you. Let's see. Big shout out to Antonio. God, the Seahawks need to fire Pete Carroll. They really do. He is horrible. And that's the thing, Debbie. Max, that's one heck of a comment. I meant to say Buffalo BWW. Did I say BBW? God, Haley's going to be mad at me. Exactly, Daryl. And I can, you see, Max knows about it. Hey, it's to each their own, right? And that's the thing, Michael. I also think this played a role. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. B-dubs. So yeah. Did I can't rewind, obviously. I'm going to go back and listen. Okay. That is so funny. But, it's one of those things, a Freudian slip. So Michael brings up a good point. How many of you believe? Because if I'm Marcus Freeman and I know I am as good as I am at what I do, okay, let's be honest. He's got a really freaking good job as the defensive coordinator of Cincinnati, okay? He's getting $600,000. He's coaching alongside a guy that he likes to be around. How many times do coaches actually like to be around other coaches? It's very rare, okay? As you could tell, Dave Aranda was not happy with that, Orgeron, and vice versa. So Jeffrey asked $1 million question. Is there a chance we can get a really good defensive coordinator? And I do think one major holdup with the LSU defensive coordinator search right now is that coaches want to run their own defense. Okay? Coaches want to run their own defense if they are the defensive coordinator. Okay? So maybe one thing that Marcus Freeman took into consideration with deciding Notre Dame over LSU is that, yes, I have it on good record that Marcus Freeman was told that he was going to be allowed to do his own thing at LSU, okay? The only problem is that at Notre Dame, Brian Kelly is an offensive coach. And if you're a defensive coordinator with an offensive coach, you are going to be allowed to do your own thing. Whereas if Marcus Freeman was going to go to LSU, where he knew, trust me, these coaches do their research. He knew Ed Orgeron wanted to switch to the four-man front, even though Freeman runs a 3-3-5. Obviously, he throws in some four-man front. Autonomy is very important to coaches, especially coaches that want to be head coaches. And Robert, thank you for our first huge donation of the night. All the other donations were great, but Robert's donation, oh, wow. Robert, I'm sorry to hear that. Barely surviving the Rona. Everybody. Okay, look. Don't just give a round of applause to Robert. Wish Robert's family well, okay? So I know a lot of you like LSU football, but whether or not you believe it, I actually do care about you viewers. So Robert, I hope you're feeling better, okay? If people watching this are the praying type, I respect all religions and people that are not religious. If you are religious, say your prayer for Robert's family, because this thing is real. And, you know, if you remember the early stages of this channel, I made one comment about the pandemic. And there just happened to be a lot of you that wanted to make a big deal about, well, this is a fake thing and this isn't real. Well, ask Robert. Ask Robert about that, who was nice enough to donate to me. Robert, I really do appreciate that. I really do. And I hope you and your family, and Robert, you have financially supported me so much. I really, really do hope you feel better. Okay? I really do. Because this thing is for real. Let's see. Hold on, hold on a second. There we go. Hey, Robert, to make you feel better, I'm going to send you this. Shoot me an email right now. I got this in the mail today. This was going in my personal collection because, as many of you know, I was a big Robert. I'm a big Rashard Lawrence fan. So, Robert, I'm going to send you this, and I'm not just doing that because of your donation. This is a gift for you and your family. Robert, if you can, send me an email, and I'm going to hook you up with this. And I was going to wait. Actually, I wasn't going to give this one out because I worked really hard to get a good price on this card. But, Robert, you deserve this. A member of the 2019 National Championship. Just you, Robert. This is a Prism card, and also you can see right here the rookie card logo right here. So this one is to you, Robert. So send me an email, and I will ship this out to you this week. So there you go, Robert. How great was Rashard Lawrence? This is a true Tiger, okay? Some people are trying to rank gorgeous women here. Ashanti, no, Debbie, that's nothing. But Rashard Lawrence was a beast. So, Robert, I hope you see that. Shoot me an email. If not, we'll just hook up on the next live stream. Oh, Jeffrey, you're a pastor. Well, ask your wonderful congregation. How are you doing your sermons, Jeffrey? I'm interested. Like, are you guys all virtual? So there you go. Ashanti better looking than Alicia Keys or Angela Yee? You know what, Cliff? That's a good point. I think his role shifted as well. Headless, I'm just a regular dude that has a microphone and a few people that like to watch me. So that's right. I mean, Robert is going through the Rona right now. That's the guy right there. And he still financially supports me. It's the least I can do. And I swear to you, I just got this in today. I mean, just look at it. And the corners are actually pretty sharp. So there you go. Drake Nevis. I like a Drake Nevis shout out. So here's the thing. Drake Nevis is actually a good 4-3 defensive tackle. Drake Nevis was a gap shooter, okay? That dude could shoot the gap better than any LSU defensive tackle ever. And, you know, what's weird is that Greg McElroy always says this, okay, the Alabama quarterback. He said Drake Nevis was the best player he ever faced. Drake Nevis was a monster. So, moving on to Corey Raymond and Shawnery. I love that name, Shawnery. I've never met a Shawnery. Yeah, Carlton, I'm a big Drake Nevis fan. And Drake was also, he was at school when I was at school. And he was a really quiet guy. He always had the biggest smile, though. He had the hugest smile. Like, you know, like some people have a smile that just lights up the room. He is one of those guys. He was just super quiet, but just a huge smile. Let's see. Robert says whoever wants to be here. Okay. Don't forget, Robert, shoot me an email. So who here? Let's get back to some LSU football here. Who here wants Corey Raymond to get the defensive coordinator job? If you want Corey, type Y for yes. If you don't want Corey, type in for no. Also, Robert, shoot me an email. I got some other cards you might be interested in as well. I could send you a Daniil Hunter if you like Daniil Hunter better than Rashard Lawrence. Oh, yeah, Glenn Dorsey's the best defensive tackle ever at LSU. Campbell McKell. Did I say your last name right? Welcome to the channel, man. I don't think Brad White's going to happen. Someone that is well connected in the coaching industry told me Brad White is looking for head coaching opportunities. Eric, just off the internet, mostly eBay, some other places. Kane said, I don't know, as long as it works. I wish it was that easy. Music wants Glenn Schumann. Okay. Let me first ask this question. Okay. So Romeo, I did say BWW right. That's Kane likes to troll me. LSU fans, who was better, Marcus Spears or Glenn Dorsey? Glenn, not by much though. Marcus is up there, but Glenn's better. I also got to remember, Glenn played hurt. Glenn's NFL career was ruined by the Auburn game. But anyway, we'll bring that back up later. Let's talk about Corey Raymond, though, for right now. All right. Let me ask you this. If Corey Raymond is not the defensive coordinator at LSU, do you guys think Corey Raymond would leave LSU for Texas? How many of you actually think Corey Raymond is seriously contemplating this move to Texas? Yeah, Daryl, but Glenn Dorsey had freaking Ricky Francois on his line too, and Kirsten Pittman, and a lot of good players. Let's see. Yeah, but Kane was jokingly trolling. He wasn't like being an idiot. If he's just a DB coach, no. Texas just hired their DB coach. I guess I didn't see that. I went for a run. Who did Texas hire? Let me see. Texas defensive coach. Terry Joseph. Doesn't Terry Joseph have I didn't see this. I guess I just slipped through the cracks. Let's see. Terry Joseph is headed to Texas. Isn't he from New Orleans? Let's see. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Terry Joseph is from New Orleans, and he is going to Texas. So there you go. So, yeah, it looks as if Corey Raymond's going to stay now. Well, the thing, and here's the problem with that music is he already got a bump in pay. He got a bump in pay after the national championship game. He was getting $440 a year, and now he's getting $600K a year. So there you go. I got a Chad Jones signed poster. No, I'm not in the interest of a poster, but I am in interest of Chad Jones. Texas will ruin any coach. What's up with Frank Wilson? I don't know where Frank is now. Where is Frank coaching? Because, Frank was a running backs coach, and he was also a recruiting coordinator, and LSU obviously is doing fine in both of those aspects. So, no, Booger played way before Marcus Spears. Frank Wilson's at McNeese State. That's right. Let's see. Is it worse to think that Ed Orgeron? Okay, it's Booger time. All right, Big. Everyone say hi.
She made
you got her?
Back from Mimi and Papa's house.
Everyone say hi to Boog. Thank you, guys. Robert, thank you for your donation for Boog the dog. Look, we got a $50 right there.
Oh, Booger, they love you, Mom.
Look, Robert's getting this right here. Rashard Lawrence card.
Look at everybody.
Look at that. Robert, another $10. I appreciate you, man. So, you guys asked a ton of questions about Booger. Oh, look at that yawn.
My baby.
So, a lot of you asked questions about Booger and her vet appointment earlier this week. It went good. Ironically, our vet went to LSU with me. So
and
Brennan,
all through high school.
And all throughout high school, he's one of my good friends, and we got a good report on Booger. Her kidney levels are doing just fine for being a good old dog. So, guys, thank you so much for all your support. I really do appreciate it. I heard something about Mike Elko. I hope not. We'll do another Booger shout out a little bit later. Eric, I appreciate all your support as well and checking in on Booger.
I like Eric. I like everybody.
Well, Debbie's Eric and Debbie are like the two. Max is a big Booger fan. D'Angelo, welcome. Bo Davis has already hired at Texas. God, Texas is making some big hires. They got Bo Davis, Terry Joseph. They're getting a lot of Louisiana natives on that staff, too. Bo Davis. Let's go back out. Why not let her go out? I think Ryan Nielsen's one of those names that popped up in one random coaching search article, and his name just keeps getting floated around because Joe Brady was a Saints assistant, and obviously the Saints are top 3 organization in the NFL right now and over the last 5 years. I just don't know if there's any real interest from Ryan Nielsen's side. I think, he's a rising name in the NFL. And, NFL defenses are so different than college defenses. So we'll see. What's the score of the Buccaneers game? I turned it off. I don't like being distracted. Plus Texas ex-coach McConaughey. Let's see. I know, Kane. I just don't know.
Did you really eat a piece of pizza?
Yeah, I just had one slice.
I told you to wait.
I just had one slice. I just don't know if the Sarkisian thing's going to work. This to me will be the biggest regret of the Tom Herman era. And this is why I don't think they should have fired the guy. Okay. One thing we've learned about head coaches is that everyone welcome Yusha from Yusha's here. Buccaneers up 10-0. How about that? Oh, it's 9-0. So they missed an extra point. Let's see. What about Reeves from UAB? You know, David Reeves is an interesting name. He's a grinder. He hasn't had any huge coaching opportunities yet. Affordable. He's very affordable. UAB's defense has been amongst one of the best. The only thing that's a problem is that, and this to me is a huge problem, is UAB didn't play at a fast pace. So the hardest thing for defensive coordinators, and the reason why I like Marcus Freeman so much, is that while Cincinnati's offense wasn't like a no-huddle Patrick Mahomes, a Texas Tech machine, they still played at a reasonable pace. So, you know, first off, David Reeves would be making a jump up from UAB to the Power 5 level, which isn't that big of a deal because he's been calling plays for a long time. It's just if LSU is going to run the Joe Brady offense, you want to have someone that can coach at that pace. So we'll see.
I feel like this deserves a show.
So, no, we're not. No, we're not doing coffee creamers. Don't think Sark is going to turn it around unless he has a top-level quarterback. So this is the biggest problem for Tom Herman because to me, one of the best coach halves of football I've ever seen was Tom Herman's offensive play calling against LSU in the second half versus our Tigers, where Texas scored on all 5 of their second half possessions, 4 touchdowns and a field goal. And Dave Aranda was throwing everything, and Texas just kept answering. And Tom Herman was just on a roll. That was the reason why Texas hired him. He just got a hot hand. The only problem Tom Herman made was he stuck with Sam Ehlinger way too long. So, you know, it's one of those things. You know, Tom Herman, his entire tenure was attached to Sam Ehlinger, who was a very good record-setting quarterback at Texas, but he wasn't spectacular. And sometimes you just have to switch up your personnel. So, you know, it's one of those things. Unless your quarterback is playing lights out spectacular, oftentimes at the college level, they are far more replaceable than a lot of coaches probably think. Okay? You know, take, for instance, Tua Tagovailoa, who was spectacular at Alabama. But his replacement has had a better season than Tua ever had at Alabama. So, unless somebody is playing lights out, exceptional football at a position, a Joe Burrow, a Tim Tebow, a Cam Newton, they're replaceable. They are replaceable. So I think Texas should have moved on to a different quarterback, whether it was Casey Thompson or whoever. At least check to see if someone else is better. Timothy, that's a good question. And this is something I asked about behind the scenes. So whenever I have something that can only be answered by someone that's in the know, I reach out. Okay, so I reached out to someone that I thought would give me some good information on this regarding Jake Peetz and DJ Mangus. You know, we can all guess what type of offense they're going to run. And Brooks Cabuena, the Advocate, wrote a great piece on Jake Peetz's background. But hear me out here. One thing that concerns me, and it concerns me just a little bit, Jake Peetz and DJ Mangus had never been in the positions that they are now. where Mangus is getting $400K a year and Jake Peets is getting 1.7 million, or excuse me, 1.2 million a year. So why in their contracts did I was very curious about the language in the contracts that, you know, if they took an NFL job, there would be no penalty on their end. And the thing about that is, well, why would you give them such favorable contracts? So let's see. I'm catching up on the comments. Wait, does someone think Tua is black? He's Hawaiian.
Go out. Come on, hurry. Go out.
Tua's actor Liam James. What is happening? This live stream, whenever we don't have a game and we're doing a Saturday live streams, they just get weird. Because some of you are drinking heavily, some of you are watching NFL in the background. Yeah, 78 likes is good, Cody. I'll take it. Zach Arnett sounds like a character off That 70s Show. I don't know a whole lot about Zach Arnett. Where is he even from? You know, there's just so many names out there. I was looking up the defensive coordinator from Tulsa. His name slipped my mind. I don't know. Tua, what? Who called Tua trash? I said he was just replaceable. He was very good, but replaceable. David Reeves is popular because David Reeves' defenses have been really good, and he was a finalist for the Broyles Award, which is what's given to the nation's best assistant coach, which is what Joe Brady won 2 years ago. If LSU had Brennan all year, Carter, they have a much better season. Do they, though? I mean, honestly. So, yeah, let's be honest about it. LSU was 1-2 with Miles Brennan. Okay? They beat South Carolina. Okay? And they beat Arkansas with TJ Finley. Now, they did have extra time to prepare, but they won those games. So, does Miles Brennan beat Alabama? No. Does Miles Brennan beat Texas A&M? That game is a coin flip if Miles Brennan is the quarterback. So I'll give you that. That's a coin flip because Miles Brennan would have been better than TJ Finley in that game. But I would argue that LSU's offensive line was historically bad in that game, to the point where I did an 1.5 hour long film study breaking down every offensive play. But still, the offense would have been better with Miles Brennan versus Texas A&M. So that's the one game. And LSU beat Florida and they beat Ole Miss. So they could have potentially been one game better with Miles Brennan. So your statement has some truth. The LSU offense would have been better with Miles Brennan instead of TJ Finley for that time period, even though their offense was incredible with Finley against South Carolina. But still, Brennan started the season pretty good. I'm not going to say very good for two reasons. Number one, the Mississippi State was a real mixed bag. That was the first game of the year with no real, practices or anything like that. The next two games were pretty good, but those next two games were against Vanderbilt and Missouri. So the three easiest teams, arguably on LSU's schedule, were the first three teams that they played. Now, Missouri was better than South Carolina. I would give you that. But, we didn't see Miles Brennan versus a top 15 recruited defense. So we'll see. Headless, I don't know if Miles Brennan beats Texas A&M. I just don't. I don't. If you believe that to be true, go back and watch the film study, because LSU's offensive line was so badly, brutally massacred, beaten, to the point where I am shocked that their chalk outlines were not on the field. They were massacred in that game. So it's interesting. I agree with you, G-Snaff. I do. Let's see. Do you think TJ Finley is gone before Spring Bowl? I think it's a little too early rumoring where certain quarterbacks may or may not go. I don't think he transfers this year, though, because look, this year didn't count against his eligibility. If he plays 4 or less games this next year, he can redshirt and then move on. I think it would not be wise for him to move on. Worst offensive line performance, A&M or Auburn? That's kind of tough to say. That's a good question. I would go A&M. I mean, even though A&M's defensive line was such a beast defensive line this year, it's one of those things. Daryl, I think players consider everything now, especially knowing that you could transfer immediately, especially with this crazy pandemic year. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Mo Funky believes Ohio State's going to bust up Alabama. The last time they played in the playoff was 2014 in New Orleans at that game. So, I don't know, Kane. It is kind of weird. Look at this. Shout out to Jordan. And take a look. I'm getting some photos of some of y'all eating dinner, watching the live stream instead of Tom Brady. I appreciate that. What is this, Jordan? Is this gumbo? Oh, that looks good. And you got some potato salad in there. Like Coach O likes it. It's good stuff. Can y'all see this? What do y'all think of this gumbo bowl? That looks good. That's a lot of sausage for a gumbo. Look, there's me right there. How would y'all rate this bowl right here of gumbo? On a scale, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would y'all rate this bowl? Okay, look, we got some potato salad. I don't like potato salad in mine. But look at all those sausage chunks in there. That's good stuff right there. On a scale of 1 to 10, y'all shout out my dude Jordan's.
We love Jordan and Danielle.
A scale of 1 to 10. Come on, there's chefs in there. I need Leandria, who's actually a professional chef. Too much sausage. How can you have too much sausage? How can you have too much protein? Ken, you're giving it an 8? Beard, Coach O's a potato salad in his gumbo. Oh, a 6? Y'all, T225, I need specifics. Why would you give this bowl of gumbo a 6? See, Debbie's only enjoying you a 10. And we got some good chicken in there. There you go, Tony. I'm giving this a good 9. Yeah, you got to give it at least an 8.5. I'm going a 9 on this. Shonnery, really? I didn't know that there were so many potato salad and gumbo people in here. All right, let's go to Max's super chat. Jordan didn't expect that. I was in Jordan's wedding. It was one of the funnest weddings. And I got really hammered. I feel like Insminger didn't let Linehan put any input on the offense. I don't know, Max. I just don't know much about Scott Linehan's offense. And it just wasn't a good fit. Like I said, Joe Brady and Insminger fit. It was a good yin and yang type of thing. And Joe Burrow's going to make any offense look spectacular. We can't undersell that. And also, we know that Justin Jefferson was a truly transcendent college player based on him having the best rookie season by any wide receiver with Kirk Cousins at quarterback and Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook in the offense. So he came into the year no better than the number 3 option and turned out to be their best option on offense. So, maybe we undersold how great the actual individual players actually were. Let's bring this up because this is actually a good question. How many of you, and don't include Bama in this, how many of you actually do this? How many of you actually root for the SEC teams no matter what? Like if Kentucky and NC State are playing, you're going to pull for Kentucky. Or how many of you just don't care? How many of you don't give a flip if any other SEC team ever wins? Do any of y'all actually care about that? Eric, I'm telling you, Eric thinks this next true freshman class is just going to take over. He thinks Eric has put it on record. Thank you, Romeo, for your Venmo donation. I really appreciate you for that. Antonio's one of those people. Sean is an everyone but Bama guy. That's all the power to you. What's your problem with Georgia? Bruce and Shonnery are my type of dudes right there. LSU only. That's me. And that's, I used to like watching all the other SEC teams. The only teams I'll really sit down and watch are LSU and Arkansas, simply because all my friends with Arkansas, and I'm an LSU fan. I'll sit down and watch Alabama. I like watching Lane Kiffin's offense. I think Lane Kiffin's entertaining. I like him throwing the play sheet 20 yards in the air. Your wife's a Georgia fan or a Louisiana Tech Bulldog fan or a Mississippi State Bulldog fan. That's a mullet. See, Kevin, that's my thing. If I was to rank which SEC schools I hate the most, I promise you, I hate Florida. I hate Gainesville. Gainesville was the worst SEC city I've ever been to. Okay? The worst. I'll go to Starkville over Gainesville. I'm dead serious about that. I like that clip. Buck Fama always. Oh man. What a live stream. I just can't do the cheering for Alabama thing. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. I absolutely hate Florida, Bama, and Georgia. It seems as if LSU fans used to hate Auburn the worst, but now, 100% of LSU fans hate Alabama the worst. Well, Alabama can't really be our rival, right? Because that's Auburn. It used to be LSU fans hated Auburn more than anybody. Auburn was scorched earth scum. But now a lot of you hate Texas A&M worse than you hate Auburn. I don't get the SEC pride thing. I just don't. I don't get that. Well, Headless, I know you're a Bama guy. And we have a lot of Bama fans that watch our content. But, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. You know what? Okay. You know one thing that kind of pisses me off? Okay, so Eric brings up the overtime loss. Number one, that game should have never gone into overtime because Texas A&M got so lucky that Kellen Mond's knee just happened to be down when he threw the interception. And the one thing the 7 overtime game kind of overshadowed was that Devin White played the greatest defensive game I've ever seen from an LSU Tiger. The greatest. That Texas A&M performance, I am legit. Go back and watch Devin White in that game. I've never seen anyone play. I've seen Patrick Willis play like that, and that's it. Patrick Willis, Devin White. That's the list. Because Patrick Willis at Ole Miss was an out-of-body experience. And some of the older people in here would remember that. You know, I was still relatively young when Patrick Willis, I was in high school. But Patrick Willis was just like scorched earth good. But Devin White versus Texas A&M was so freaking ridiculous. So ridiculous. And he blitzed, and Kellen Mond threw an interception, but his knee was down before he threw it, and it was Grant Delpit who got the interception, his big Thorpe Award-winning moment. Well, we didn't get that, and it went into overtime. And Dave Aranda couldn't stop anyone to save his life. Jacob Phillips got kicked out of the game for targeting. That also hurt us in overtime. And Joe Burrow ran the ball for 28 times in that game. It was such a weird game. But, you know, the one thing that just pisses me off, that Jimbo Fisher's nephew punched a dude who had Parkinson's. Or what did he do against Steve Crackthorpe? What did he do? He did something to a guy with Parkinson's. And Kev Falk could have murdered the kid, and he didn't. And Kev Falk, I'm glad he didn't murder him because he would have never gotten the running back's job. And as many of you know, this is a very pro Kev Falk channel. He's in our background for every video. So, you know, that bothers me that a human being punched it. Or what did he do? He did something to Steve Crackthorpe, who has Parkinson's. Okay. It was literally bottom of the barrel type of stuff. Yeah, and the pacemaker. It was just horrible. So, yeah, that overtime game sucked. But you know what? Let me change your mind about Texas A&M, though. There you go. So, Kayusha thinks like me. And he super chatted that take. So, was LSU going to the UCF Bowl regardless? Maybe, maybe not. But still, we had the UCF game, the hit. We had a lot of positive momentum going into the offseason. That was a New Year's Day Bowl. The hit, the famous blindside hit, where Joe Burrow proved to the world he is the toughest mother trucker. That was a moment. But that's the thing, Headless. It's, you know, that kid deserved to legit get his skull pounded into the turf. When you should never punch somebody older than you. Okay? There's Jonathan. We were just talking about Kev Falk, and Jonathan finally joins the chat. So Yusha brings up that we never would have gotten the national championship, moment. A lot of people go to that moment. But also something else about Texas A&M is that we have beaten the daylights out of them, okay? And we'll get back into the defensive coordinator. I know Bruce had questions about that. Should Coach Orgeron more NFL players as analysts? Yeah, well, we saw that with Arizona State. Obviously, Antonio Pierce is the player he's thinking about here. Antonio Pierce was one heck of an NFL player. Yeah, Jonathan, you already missed Boog. Kendall Cleveland. How about that? I have no idea who that is, Sean. I'm dead serious. I'm gonna look up his tape tonight. Well, John. So for those that are just joining us, we've gotten so many cool stories. Okay, before the live stream, I was learning about some of our viewers. We have someone watching for a Lewis who's driving across country. He's watching with the sun right now, and he's driving from South Louisiana as a truck driver to Allentown, Pennsylvania. Okay, so we've had some crazy things happen. I go through some of these comments, and you guys have legit really, really brightened my day. I've had a long day too. We had Robert. His whole family is watching us. He's currently battling. He does have the Rona, and a lot of us are down in the dumps. But guess what? We come here to talk LSU football. That's the one thing that connects us. It's the one thing that connects Eric at the Air Force Base, Kane in Pennsylvania, Ulysses in Denver, Yusha in Ukraine. Hang out with me to talk about the sport that we care about more than anything else. Well, Lewis, if you're watching, there's Yusha right there. I think Lewis is going to Allentown, Pennsylvania. How about that? The Lee Valley. So I hope Lewis is still watching. I think he went to bed. He drove. I think he said he drove from Houston to South Louisiana. And this is weird, but I've always had a fascination with truck drivers because like when you're little and you're driving in the car and you just go like this. And whenever the truck driver honked that horn, I would go in the backseat. I'd be like, yeah, honk that hard. Ah. There you go, Jonathan. That's the point of this. Hey, you guys think I'm as long as Booger and my girlfriend are happy and healthy, that's all I care about. That's all I care about. And I'm gonna be in a good mood if those two things are healthy. Well, Eric, I don't drive anymore. So I used to drive a lot for comedy, but oftentimes I would not see trucks. But when I did, I still do it. Even if I'm driving, I'll still do it. Okay, do you remember the Jamarcus Russell 2005 game against Bama? That game was nuts. I don't remember a whole lot from that game. I just don't. My favorite Jamarcus Russell game was the Arizona State game. I know we were just talking about Arizona State. I still think Jamarcus Russell's game-winning throw versus Arizona State is the best throw I've ever seen an LSU Tiger make. It's that or 3rd and 17. It's one of those two. Okay, the best throw I've ever seen an LSU Tiger make. Now, everyone's got their favorite throw. Some of you would say, well, Matt Mock on 4th down versus Georgia to Skylar Green in the back of the end zone. That's a great one. That's hard to argue. That was Matt Mock's signature moment. A lot of you would say Matt Flynn to Demetrius Byrd versus Auburn. Okay. And then, some of you would say, Russell to Bo. And then I was at this game versus Ole Miss, Jamarcus Russell to Dwayne Bowe to win that game because that game would have been lost. Jamarcus Russell, yeah, exactly. You see, that's why Cliff and I are related. He speaks just like me. That Ole Miss game was just ridiculous. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many different throws. But the Arizona State throw was just so stupidly, outrageously crazy. Like, it's beyond human comprehension that a human being could fit that ball into that window. Tommy Hudson to Fuller. But that's the earthquake game, correct? And a lot of you say Flynn to Bird. Yeah, that's probably the most iconic one. Simply with the clock management and all of that. Yeah, Rohan Davis got a few. Rohan might be watching this and be like, why would this dude not ever mention my name in some of the throws? Rohan had a lot of clutch throws. But then again, that's a little bit earlier. I don't have as vivid of a memory as some of you might do with Rohan Davey. Welcome, Chris from Oklahoma. I remember Sugar Bowl was 06-07. I was at, what was that? The Jamarcus Russell Sugar Bowl 06-07 against Notre Dame. I was at that game too. That was, God, Jamarcus was so freaking good. Jamarcus was so freaking good. And then Shannon brings up, Marcus run 93 dash right Berlin. How about that? How can we have a greatest LSU throw and I don't mention that? Randall to Devery Henderson. Shonnery, thank you for checking me on that. That's probably the number one, honestly. Some of you would say Flynn to Bird because I won a championship. Some of you would say 3rd and 17. Some of you would say Arizona State. But really, the Jamarcus Russell throw just did not make any sense. He rolled out to his right, and as he was rolling to his left, threw off his wrong foot, and that ball was a rope. It was a freaking rope. Legit. That ball had to have been thrown 70, 80, 90 miles per hour. I don't know how hard a football actually is thrown, but the amount of torque and power behind that throw is just crazy. That's a good one too, Kendall. Burrow to Derek Dillon versus Mississippi State in the back of the end zone. That was a good throw too, but I know you're talking about the Auburn game. That throw was pretty good. The linebacker overran it. So that helped out. That was 2018 Joe Burrow. But still, Devery is the only athlete with the national championship Super Bowl and an ESPY. How about that? Bruce, I hate that idea. No Matt Patricia, please. No NFL has-beens. Please, please, please. Please, no NFL has-beens. That was a good throw too, Adam. The Thad Moss toe tap. You know what's very interesting about Joe Burrow is that, he beat teams so easily, and he was so good at throwing to receivers that were open or only being guarded by one person that there's not many he had a lot of tight window throws, but his throws were just so freaking smart. It wasn't just the precision. It wasn't just the accuracy. It was that Joe Burrow made the right throw so many different times, if that makes sense. There's a difference between making a really good throw and making a really good throw and it also being the right throw. That was a good throw. I could also make a case Jarrett Lee versus Florida for the game-winning throw to Terrence Tolliver. That was a great throw too. In the red zone, they tried to throw a jump ball. It was pass interference, and they went right back to it and connected. Really, though, Jarrett Lee's best throw was he had a big one against Auburn to win on the road, and then he also had a huge one to complete a 4th and 9 to Tennessee to Terrence Tolliver. It was actually 4th and 14. Okay, so Max, that's tough. Ooh, that is tough. I don't know if I want to answer that one. So Burrow or Herbert next 10 years. But anyway, on the game winning throw thing, before we get to that. What's up, Britt? About time. I don't remember the Tolliver catch versus Olin. You guys understand, I am a Terrence Tolliver stan. I brought it up plenty of times. He is the most underrated and misunderstood LSU player of all time in the modern era because he never got to play with a great quarterback. And he never got to. And Jarrett Lee and Jordan Jefferson were okay, but there was no stability. And he was equally good with both of them. So, Max, thanks for your sticker. I'll throw it out to you guys. For the. Okay, let me get clarification on your question, Max. Are you saying who would I rather have as my quarterback for the next 10 years? Or are you asking me who will end up being the better NFL quarterback? Let me ask you that, Max. Are you saying who would I take right now to start my own team? Or are you asking me which quarterback do I think will have a better next 10 years? Let me ask you that, Max, and I will get back to that. Mike says, please no Jared pick six league. I threw so many pick sixes. And honestly, TJ Finley does as well. That might be the biggest difference between Max Johnson and TJ Finley. They both won 2 games. They both have a lot of promise. They both do some things well. Obviously, TJ's got a better arm. Max gives you a little bit more mobility, but Max does not turn the football over, and TJ has had quite a few back-breaking turnovers. Yeah, the Joe Burrow throw versus Georgia is insanity. So I'm waiting on Max to clarify his question, and then I'll throw it out to you guys. Because I am buying the Justin Herbert hype. I really am. Especially if you have Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. And, I'm actually buying some Tyron Johnson stock. I'm thinking about buying a few of his rookie cards. And I know a lot of you aren't Tyron Johnson fans. I am. Out of New Orleans. He was one of my favorite wide receivers to watch at Warren Eason. Okay, let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. Who would you rather have for the next 10 years? So, I'm gonna still stick with Joe Burrow, simply because Justin Herbert athletically is better. He's got a better arm, and obviously, he's not going to have the lingering injury. But Joe Burrow's just as fast. He's probably a little bit better of a runner. And Joe's just my guy. I know that it's just hard for me to be unattached to Joe Burrow in this situation. But, when you actually go back and watch Burrow in the Bengals games, he had no offensive line. A.J. Green's a shell of his former self. Tyler Boyd was pretty good with them, and T. Higgins was just getting started. So their supporting casts were, for the most part, pretty equal, despite the Bengals' offensive line being worse than the Chargers' offensive line, which that group is still not that great either. And I think they both don't have great head coaches, and I think both of them do need to move on from their coaches. With that said, I'm still taking Joe. I still am. So, about time, Brady. I'm always late. Well, there's Lewis right there. All right, Lewis. Have a safe drive. Lewis, I don't know if you missed your shout out earlier. Shout out to all my truck drivers. Lewis going from Baton Rouge all the way up to Allentown, Pennsylvania. Lewis, I appreciate your support. Thank you so very much. Have a safe drive. Get some good rest tonight. Get you a few 5-hour energies. I know you're with some family watching this. Enjoy the night with your son. And we wish you the best, Lewis. We really do. Thank you for supporting the channel. Tell me more about Lance Thompson. I don't like to BS you because, some guys will be like, yeah, Lance Thompson, he's the next great thing. I don't know a whole lot about Lance Thompson. I don't. Andres Valencia. I love that name. Valencia. One of my favorite soccer clubs. I'm kidding. I'm not a Valencia fan. Burrow's grit is unmatched, clear leader from day one. I agree with that, but Justin Herbert's intangibles are actually pretty good as well. When Herbert was at Oregon, he won so many scholar athlete and off the field awards. He really is a well put together kid. And as we've learned, Mario Cristobal is a good recruiter, but he plays and coaches games suboptimally. Sometimes I watch Oregon football and I'm like, wait, what is Mario Cristobal doing? Because, it didn't make sense that Oregon, they won a freaking Rose Bowl, but why wasn't Justin Herbert better? Like, why wasn't he ever near Heisman Trophy discussion? Kane, you want to know so bad. That famous quote told to me by an LSU player. Ain't that the truth? Tua looks shot. He really does. He doesn't have it. I know a few sports orthopedic surgeons. I know just a few. But I could tell you that a hip injury is so uncommon that it's hard to come back from. At least Joe Burrow's injury, that's tough to come back from as well. But it's more common that a player goes through that injury. Tua just had so many different injuries. And I just don't think athletically he is NFL stuff. I just don't. Debbie, that's a good point about Clyde's injury. It is a little worrisome. I think he bounces back. Oh, headless. Okay, I see. Headless, why would you ask such a stupid question like that? One of the greatest LSU running backs in history versus someone who's not that. But as Chewy points out, the most famous hip industry is obviously Bo Jackson. It's hard. Like I said, the more common injuries are, the more doctors know how to rehab it. Hip injuries just aren't as common, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but, it is what it is. Let's see. I know, Jonathan, we had to super chat to keep this thing pumping, to keep this train moving. The day ones. Wait, Devin White's not playing tonight? One of y'all texted me this. Is Devin White really not playing tonight? Is he hurt or is it pandemic stuff? Ricky Steamboat had an injury. Happy New Year to you, Chewy. So here we go. We're an hour and a half into it. Obviously, hit the thumbs up button. We're at 123 people, 93 thumbs up. So let's go on ahead and do our city shout out. Where are you watching from tonight? I know Tony's in Tennessee, Kane's in Pennsylvania, Yusha from Ukraine's in Pennsylvania, Debbie's in Houston, Sam Nader is indeed retiring. Jonathan in North Carolina. Cody, where are you from? V-Law, where are you from? His hip bone actually started dying. Andres from Dallas, man. That's my girlfriend and I's favorite city is Dallas. I love freaking Dallas, Texas. I freaking love Dallas. Andres, where do you live in Dallas? Let's see. Philly, Valdosta. What's up, Valdosta, Georgia? How about Corey Raymond picking up that defensive back from Valdosta yesterday for class of 2022? V-Law's in Omaha, home of the greatest steaks. I actually do buy into the Omaha steak craze. Got to go to the Drover in Omaha. Just so crazy. Shout out to Romeo and Eric. Got a lot of military in here. Ingram for Baton Rouge. Bremen, Georgia? Bremen? Let's see. In Atlanta from Nola?
2 pieces of pizza?
Yeah, just 2. Oh, you're in Denton, Texas. That's pretty cool that Corey Raymond picked up that corner. I'm telling you. I'm really glad he's not going to Texas now. He still could be their defensive coordinator, though. Go. Yeah, so V-Law, that's funny. That's a good question, Andres. No, only 2 slices of pizza. No, I ate a slice before I came on here. And you know what? It's from Rotolo's. So there's a Rotolo's about an hour from where I live in Ruston. And, I always get the Rotolo's calzone. I'm a big Rotolo's guy. Great beer, great atmosphere. But today I got a deep dish pizza. And their deep dish pizza is the best tasting pizza in Louisiana. Carmita, we do not have a defensive coordinator yet. Welcome, Carmita, to the channel. Shawnery, welcome to the channel as well. What a do, Simeon. Mike wants to know foreign countries. So we got Yusha in Ukraine versus he in India. V-Law, you went to Louisiana Tech. So Ruston's like a completely different city than what it used to be. They really upgraded. They really did. Home of the peach. And this is so fascinating to me. And a lot of you are from Louisiana. Some of you have. It's shocking how many LSU fans that I've talked to on this channel that have never been to an LSU game, nor have ever actually been to Baton Rouge. So this is something about the state of Louisiana and people that live in Louisiana, which is not me, but I'm from there, would tell you this. North Louisiana and South Louisiana are so different. They are 2 completely different places. And it blows my mind how different they are from someone that actually has to drive through the whole state quite often. Well, thank you so much. Sweetheart, thank you. So it's just so fascinating. But North Louisiana has gotten a lot better. And Ruston is one of those towns. And it's weird because if Louisiana was like all the other states in the SEC, like Mississippi, which has 2 Power 5 universities, like Alabama that has 2 Power 5 SEC universities, a lot of the northern Louisiana guys would theoretically go to the other Power 5 school in Louisiana if there was another one. And when you think about it, LSU just would not win national championships if they did not have North Louisiana Tigers. So it's one of those things. Let's see. We're from Lake Charles, but we live in Corpus Christi, Texas. Shout out to all our Lake Charles viewers. I know recovery efforts are still happening there. Plum's not in here, so shout out to you. Shout out to Steve-O the Gringo in Lake Charles. And we got a lot of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Funny, true fact. I've never spent time in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I haven't. I know it sounds weird. Been everywhere in South Louisiana except Lake Charles. I've just never been. Let's see. Lil Dior from Lake Charles as well. Man, I need to go down to Lake Charles, do a comedy show there. I'd love to. No news on Eric Gilbert other than Florida has picked up steam. All the power to him, man. I would still support Eric Gilbert no matter where he goes. I support all Chris Curry, anybody. I'll still support him. You know what's funny? North Louisiana are heavy Bama fans. I've heard that rumor. I don't believe it. I would digress to people that actually live there. I've spent a good bit of time in North Louisiana. A lot of them are Arkansas fans because, Arkansas shares the border. Matt from Winter Park, Colorado, welcome. Corey Patterson, a.k.a. Corey Raymond's burner account, says, why not me? Corey Raymond wouldn't be the worst thing at this point. It would be an affordable option. Logistically, it would make a lot of sense. Obviously, he would have a lot of buy-in from the players. But, it's one of those things where you would think for how good he's been at what he's done, that there would be a rumor out there or more positive steam for Corey Raymond to get a defensive coordinator job before now. Here's a good example of this. So last year, when the defensive coordinator job was open, if Corey Raymond wanted to really be a defensive coordinator, it would have made a lot of sense last year just to shift him over into that role. So that's the problem with Corey Raymond as the defensive coordinator, is that at some point, we would have heard more rumors about that. We would have heard his name being rumored as a defensive coordinator somewhere else. I mean, it was blacked out a few times. A lot of people have. So, if Corey, like I said to start the live stream, I would like Corey Raymond to get that opportunity. It would mean a lot, historically for that to happen. I shared the Eddie Robinson story. It'd mean a lot to me. But, I also want the best candidate for this job. And I don't think Corey Raymond is that. I don't think Derek Mason was that. I don't think Jeremy Pruitt's a name that you guys mentioned to me. I don't want a former head coach getting the job. I just don't. Will Muschamp, I don't like it. I think the Barry Odom success last year from head coach to DC was an exception to the rule. I don't like head coaches going from being a head coach to being the defensive coordinator. Jordan also from Lake Charles. North Louisiana seems to disagree with you. About what? JJ, he is our resident North Louisiana guy, works in a hospital. JJ, are you working tonight? See, reading some of your Facebook comments. Some of you guys hit me up on Facebook. That's a good question, Bio. I don't think he does. I don't think Ed Orgeron has a backup plan. I think that was part of the selling point to Marcus Freeman. And I also think that's part of the reason why they moved so quick with Jake Peets and DJ Mangus. Cliff's a Ryan Nielsen guy. Give it to the young guy, the Saints prodigy. Yeah. Well, I didn't say Bama fans are in North Louisiana. Someone else did. I've been in North Louisiana a lot. I've never seen a Bama fan. I'm dead serious. I've never seen one. Well, Jordan, I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of people don't. Okay. You always got to ask yourself this question. Okay. If you're not an LSU fan, would you come to LSU? Okay. Every year up to this point would be a year where, from a neutral perspective, I would want to be a coordinator at LSU. But this just happens to be the first year where the coordinatorship is a little toxic. Okay. So to answer Jordan's question, okay, in general, Mark, I'm going to answer your question in just a moment. You guys are about to hate me for what I'm about to say, because you're going to be like, well, aren't you an LSU fan channel? Aren't you supposed to be positive? Well, let's strip everything down and let's just try our best to look at this from a neutral perspective. Think about the defensive coordinator position and think about all what's happened with that certain job at LSU. Okay. First thing, LSU fired. Well, they didn't fire. Dave Aranda was already kind of not getting pushed out, but falling out of favor with Ed Orgeron, which is why the New Mexico State job was a very real thing. And Dave Aranda was smart to turn that down because obviously he ended up getting the Baylor job. But as you could tell, in the year LSU was going to the national championship game, the defensive coordinator, who was making north of $2 million, was quietly being shunned by the head coach of that university, to the point where in the official LSU national championship 1-hour piece on the SEC network, Dave Aranda wasn't even mentioned. How often did you hear Ed Orgeron talk about Dave Aranda's role in the national championship game? Not a whole lot. It just wasn't one of those things. And when Dave Aranda left, Ed Orgeron destroyed the guy. Okay? JJ, thank you for working at the hospitals. We appreciate you. I think you missed it, but earlier Robert was, shouting out all the healthcare workers and all that stuff. So thanks for doing that, JJ. But anyway, so if you're a defensive coordinator and you're looking at LSU from afar, let's just say you're Marcus Freeman, and you have other options. Notre Dame will pay you what he ended up getting paid. Their agent, their coaching team, they all put that into their research. Okay. So if you're LSU, you're kind of behind the 8 ball, because Ed Orgeron trashed the guy who was really good in his 4 years at LSU, said before anything ever happened that the new guy was already better than the old guy, and we were months away from a game even happening. So as Cliff pointed out, Ed Orgeron could be a little petty, okay? He is a defensive guy. And Ed Orgeron said, I want to go to a 4-man front. Well, guess what? How many defensive coordinators out there run a 4-man front? Not many anymore. They just don't. Okay? So that's against you. Because Marcus Freeman doesn't run a 4-man front. There are some defenses where he'll line up in a 4-man front. It's just something that he doesn't want. So if you're Marcus Freeman and you can go anywhere you want, your autonomy is something that's very important to you. Your ability to do what you want is very important to you. The Luke Fickell thing, he is a defensive guy with a defensive background. Luke Fickell let Marcus Freeman do what he wanted. As you should when you're paying a defensive coordinator $600,000 a year at Cincinnati. So, from afar, you have a defensive head coach who could be very opinionated about his defensive coordinators, both positively and negatively, who wants to run a four-man front, which is what a lot of defensive coordinators don't do anymore. So all of that is just football-related mess. LSU is also currently being investigated for multiple different types of off-the-field behavior. Okay? The assault cases. That investigation continues with Hush Blackwell, the firm that's investigating that. And we also have this booster thing that popped up. The Odell Beckham Jr. thing popped up. So I'm not bringing that up to be negative. I'm bringing that up because those are all facts. Everything I said there was undebatable facts. And when all of those things are considered, a defensive coordinator would be skeptical of jumping to a new situation where there is a lot of toxicity. So that weighs into this. All that weighs into this. And I'm passionate about it. I want LSU to be successful, but there's a lot going against LSU in this situation. Carl Dunbar, I wouldn't mind it either. You want someone that would give everything to stay at LSU for a long time? I'll tell you this, if Carl Dunbar was successful, he would be the defensive coordinator for 4 to 5 years. Something else I really like about him. You get him at a good price. You can get Carl Dunbar for $1 million. But he's never called plays before. He's never been given the opportunity. And I know he's a defensive line coach, but he's been a defensive line coach everywhere. Alabama, Minnesota, Pittsburgh. Go look at Carl Dunbar's resume and tell me when his defensive line was not a top 5 defensive line when he was there. Everywhere he goes, his defensive line is freaking incredible. So he obviously knows what he's doing. I'm always skeptical about Bama assistants. I really am. And I know Dunbar used to be, but he's not anymore. So Carl Scott, I don't know. But Jordan, to go against Carl Dunbar, I've never seen him drawing up plays. I don't know what kind of defense he would run. When he's just a defensive line coach, you don't know what his defensive philosophies are. But what I can tell you is at his craft, he's pretty daggum good. He's pretty daggum good. And I think he'd work well with Corey Raymond. I like Lynn Schumann better than I like Jim Leonhard. I think Jim Leonhard would be a horrible fit. You know, there's 2 guys who are really sexy defensive coordinator names that I did not want. Derek Mason was one of them, but I think Jim Leonhard would be a disaster. That I hate that fit for a lot of reasons. Number one, he likes where he currently is more than he likes LSU. So he would be making a switch solely due to money. Okay. He's a Wisconsinite through and through. He wants the Wisconsin head coaching job. He played in the NFL a long time, so he's got money. It just wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Also, Jim Leonhard is also a defensive coordinator who plays with an offense that plays at a prehistoric pace. Wisconsin plays at one of the slowest paces in college football. Of the teams that played 8 or more games, Wisconsin played the fewest amount of plays. Cannot say this enough. It is so much easier to run a defense when you're not on the field a lot. Wisconsin wins time of possession. They bleed a lot of time out of the play clock when they're on offense. They play a lot of slow-paced offenses themselves, like Iowa and other teams in the Big Ten. So, going from the Big Ten to the SEC simply because of style of play, if you reach for Jim Leonhard, you're getting a guy who'd have to play at a faster pace, move his family in a pandemic to a place that he likes not as much as where he currently is. I would hate the Jim Leonhard decision. Would he be better than Bo Pelini? Who wouldn't be? Okay. I didn't want Derek Mason. I'm glad he's at Auburn. I hope Derek Mason does well. He's obviously super talented. Hasn't been a defensive coordinator since 2012. And like Will Muschamp, his Vanderbilt defenses were awful. And I know he didn't have great talent on Vanderbilt's defense, but I would be very concerned hiring Derek Mason and Jim Leonhard. I would take anyone else that has been considered for the job more than those guys. Let's see. Emmanuel says, Carter, wouldn't we say the same about Pete's? What's the difference? What's that referring to? Oh, about not knowing what kind of offense you would run. Is that what you're saying, Emmanuel? I don't want to ignore your question. I read a good story on Jake Peetz today. Brooks Coblena of The Advocate had a really good piece on it. I don't want Kevin Steele, but what do you think? Well, Auburn's defense, as you saw it, and someone mentioned it a minute ago, Mason Smith in a Derek Brown role, that would be pretty freaking incredible. I think Mason's a different kind of player than Derek. I think Mason's a little bit more a Dorsey type than a Derek. Derek Brown just pummeled you. Dorsey was a little bit more nimble. Mason Smith's an athlete, man. He really is. Play calling. Oh. And yeah, that's another thing. I wouldn't mind Carl Dunbar, even though he's never called plays before. I wouldn't mind it. So that to your point, I actually agree with you, Emmanuel. But we kind of know what the offense we kind of know what kind of offense that he and Mangus is going to run simply because, well, Joe Brady recommended him. So if those two are Joe Brady disciples, we expect them to run the Joe Brady offense. So hopefully that answers your question, Emmanuel. I'm very pro Carl Dunbar. I really am. Louisiana through and through, that would be a dream job for him. He'd want to be there. He's coached in the NFL. I mean, everywhere he's gone, his defensive line's been great. I like Glenn Schumann a lot. He's probably in my top 5 candidates right now. All right. Let me block all pork rinds. I knew there'd be some trolls coming in. They literally almost beat us last season. Who beat us? The Pittsburgh Steelers? Glenn's interesting. I like watching the Georgia defense. They're obviously year in and year out one of the best defenses. What's up, Sharper? Welcome to the channel. Let's see. They literally almost beat us this season. Auburn almost beat us this year. Oh, Auburn's defensive coordinator. Is that what you're saying? I'm confused. Wide receiver. Why does everyone want Corey Raymond? Well, I want Corey Raymond too, if it, makes sense. Black OT, about time. I would hope. I would like the Corey Raymond thing to work out. I really would. I really, really would. Let's see. So we are 2 hours into this. Babe, are you eating dinner? She has her headphones in. I think my pizza's ready. Are you eating right now? Huh. Her headphones are in. Dude, when you have these noise, I don't have noise canceling headphones. I got cheap little $20 headphones. She's got like those AirPod Pros where you legit can't, if she was standing by a train, she wouldn't be able to hear it coming. I'm not anti Corey Raymond getting the job, but the best case scenario would be for him to stay as the best defensive backs coach ever at LSU, and arguably one of the best position coaches ever at LSU. His record is pretty freaking incredible. I know, Jordan. My girlfriend's parents gave me this hoodie. Miss Marcus tonight. Wifey ballin'. Okay, that's a good point, Truxie. Okay, let me see. Let's bounce by Romeo. All right. Let me answer your question in the Venmo. Oh, okay. So Romeo's excited about Joe Brady getting the second interview with the Jets. Joe Brady with Zach Wilson or Joe Brady with Justin Fields? You're a Jets fan, Romeo. Would you rather Justin Fields or Zach Wilson? I would prefer Fields. I was very pro Zach Wilson, but these last couple of games kind of scared me a little bit. Romeo also says that he would like for me to live stream during the championship game on Monday. So let me bring this up. Who would want me to do a live stream during the game? Would you want me to just do it for the first half? Would you want it? It depends, because obviously we have the Tuesday night live streams. I'm always going to do that because the YouTube algorithm expects that. Here's one more booger before we get out of here. There we go. It's my baby girl right here. That makes some sense, Sharper. That does make some sense. The problem with that, though, is that Ed Orgeron had some prior head coaching experience where we have not seen Corey Raymond ever call a play. So who would want – because obviously a lot of you have national championship watch parties and whatnot. Who would want a national championship live stream during the first half? You would want it for the second half. I don't know if the second half's a good idea, though, because let's say the game's close, you'd want to really focus in on that. But a lot of you want second half live stream. A first half live stream would be a little bit better as well because it would be a little bit easier to set the time. Debbie's the booger queen. Okay, so how many of you would watch a first half live stream? See, logistically, from a YouTuber's perspective, a first half live stream would be better. Black OT with the super chat for Booger. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Papa wave.
Everyone wave a pawpaw.
She
Look at her. She's about to fall asleep. Y'all look at the Booger's getting more and more comfortable on camera as she grows a YouTube following. My boog is a pot-belly pig named Bacon.
I love it.
I love that, Jordan. A pot-belly pig. So, okay, we'll do a first. Is that fine with you?
I don't care.
Okay.
I'll go upstairs.
First half live stream for the championship game on Monday.
But
We'll do it.
Number 7.
Eric's going to make Boog a number 7 jersey. You would be a good number 7. All right.
I'll let her eat while I eat my tuna.
She gonna eat? You had tuna steak?
Don't worry about me.
She made a tuna steak without me.
You got pizza.
I know I got pizza. But the tuna steak, the festation of the flavors. It's a good question, Vinny.
Check it out.
All right, before we sign off, I'll do one more super chat shout out. If you want a super chat, or if you want a Venmo, I will happily go a few more minutes. Britt, we'll see you. So our next live stream will be on Monday. Yeah, so we'll do a first half for the national championship game. Tuna steaks at 3K. We're close at 3,000. So I was going to keep this card. I wasn't going to give it out because I like Rashard Lawrence a lot. So, Robert, congratulations for winning this card. We hope you overcome the Rona. Once again, if you are a praying type, please pray for Robert and his family as they fight through the Rona. Robert, please send me an email so I can send you this piece of history. Yeah, I got the Rona.
Oh,
The leader, Booger's ear is in the water.
baby.
Booger's ear is in the water.
I'm getting it. Shut up.
So my Boog attacks her food. How many of your dogs? She matadors it.
Her face is so flat.
She has a flat face, so her food bowl, she'll just. Jamal, what's up, man? So, Sharper, I better see you on Monday, man. V-Law says, I hope Bama wins so Saban will retire sooner. That's not happening. I don't think that guy is ever going to quit. So, Robert, please send me an email. But as Eric points out, when we hit 3,000 subscribers, I'm actually giving out a Daniil Hunter rookie card when we hit 3,000 subscribers. In fact, I'm giving out 2 Daniil Hunter rookie cards. The great LSU defensive end.
What do I get when you hit 3,000?
Happy birthday to Lazio. Forever LSU. Good night, everyone. I'm a Lazio fan. Shout out to Giorgio Canaglia.
Don't kick your water over, too.
She's Matadoring. Eric, you're looking pretty good for the Daniil Hunter rookie card, man. It's actually pretty cool. Her ear's in the water again, baby.
Baby, I would pay for you to do something.
She likes to dip her ear in the water.
I'm going to pick the winner.
JJ, I wouldn't mind a Carl Dunbar, Corey Raymond co-defensive coordinatorship. 2 Louisiana guys, that would be pretty historic. I'm all about it, man. I am all about it. Shout out to Lazio, though. Yusha has adopted me as a Lazio fan in Italy. I'm not a big Serie A fan for you soccer fans, though. Okay? I became a Liverpool fan because in 2005, Steven Gerrard in Liverpool came back from 3 goals down in Istanbul, Turkey, for the greatest comeback in Champions League history. Only to be surpassed when Liverpool came back from 4-0 down against Barcelona in Anfield to go to the Champions League final. So I'm a Liverpool fan. But Lazio is now my Italian Serie A team. Oh, yeah, who dat? Romeo did ask this to me in a video, picking the games tomorrow. So I have been awful. I'm not betting. I've missed both of my bets today. Ravens versus Titans. You say Titans? Titans are at home and they're getting 3.5. I'm going Titans as well, even though their defense is awful right now. Bears and Saints. The Saints, the number was at 8, went up to 9. It's all the way up to 10. I'm still going to go for the Saints. 10 points is a lot, though, to cover. And we're not going to have the Who Dat faithful in the crowd. Or we're not going to have a big crowd. So I will go Saints 28-21. And then we have Pittsburgh and Cleveland. I'm obviously a big Saints fan. I do like the Steelers. I know we have a lot of Steelers fans out there. So The Browns will be without their coach. I just don't believe the Steelers can blow a team out. I like the Browns to cover, Steelers to win. My favorite play tomorrow is the under in that game. Both of these teams are very familiar with each other. Both of these teams have fledgling quarterbacks that are not all that athletic. And both of these teams have really great pass rushes, and they just played each other just a few days ago. A lot of nerves in that game. AFC North showdown, the third time that they've played. I know that the Rams and the Seahawks hit the over, even though it was the third time that they played, even though there was bad quarterback play in that game. I actually do like the under in this game. So yeah, we will see you Monday. We will hopefully we'll be able to produce another video before that. But Monday, the first half of the national championship game, we will be YouTube live streaming. So we'll see you there. Okay. Thank you to all the super chatters. Robert was our number one super chatter. You should right behind him, and Romeo as well. Max, thank you for your super chats today as well. And a guy who super chats every single time he turns on the live stream, Black Goatee. You are 100% on super chats. Legit. Every time you watch, you donate to our channel. And guess what, Black Goatee? You deserve all the support from me. So thank you so much. And something else, Black Goatee, he watches sports with the love of his life. He and his wife have matching Joe Burrow jerseys. That is so freaking cool, Black Goatee. Matching Joe Burrow jerseys. How about that? That is so freaking cool. And it's the all black Joe Burrow jersey. It's a variation. I like that.
Nice.
It's really cool. Black Goatee's got swag, man.
She is making a mess.
AK-41 and Michael Thomas playing. How about that? All right, guys. As Kane points out, it is
You need to
Power.
fix that food.
our LSU. Boom. Pizza time. Let's go. Come on, Bug. What are you doing?